Welcome to another episode of Morning Mojo with me, your host Shane Solomon. Today, I'm super excited to welcome onto the sofa in the podcast studio, Stewart Roode. Welcome to the studio, Stewart. I'm going to get straight into the content, as I always like to do. And your passions for starting in business in the first place, where did it come from?
Okay, so going back in time, I think originally I was very interested in technology growing up. So anything electrics, a new tech coming out, gadgets, that type of thing. And then I guess through studies, school, college, university, marketing, there was I had a peak in interest in marketing. So coming out of university and not knowing what I was going to do next, didn't have that plan. Then I was looking around, and this is quite early on in what I do now is search marketing, so search engine marketing, digital marketing. And there was a job position for a search marketer. So that kind of combined both those things. So if you think that's quite a technological business aligned with marketing, so it was a good fit, as it turns out.
So so what about the leap then actually setting up on your own, because you got hooked on media, right?
That's right.
So what was the time scale into actually doing that for yourself and starting out? Because now you employ quite a few people. There'll be people listening to this podcast either at the start of their journey, they're in the middle, and perhaps even being retired. But so we've got a broad range. But what time scale from you, working that bit out to starting hooked on media?
I think, about 6 years from starting in an employed role to then taking that leap and founding your own business. I was quite fortunate to have a co-founder who I'd worked alongside for those 6 years. So we knew each other very well. We knew how each other worked, and it gives you that combined sort of drive and reassurance on things when you're starting a business.
And what gave you that belief that you could do it? Now, I know there was two of you, but What gave you personal belief that you could achieve your goals?
Well, I think because we were doing a lot of the work ourselves, we knew we could do it. And I think that's important. I think if you're going to start a business or thinking of starting a business, it does help if you have delivered that service or have great knowledge of the product you're going to launch, that type of thing, rather than just an idea. I think an idea is okay and that might work, but it does help if you've had time in the market or time in the business, so to speak. So I guess we had confidence there because we knew what we were doing, and went from there.
Now, of course, the media that you're in, a lot of people will probably say, we can do Facebook ads, we can do pay-per-click, we can do Google ads. But really, my experience is you really need the help of a professional if you want to get those results. What would you say to that? I mean, obviously, you're in the business, you're very busy, you're very successful. It's an expert job, right? You've got to know your stuff.
It is. So time in the industry really demonstrates results often. So these days you will have a lot of people saying they can do digital marketing or companies offering digital marketing and even specifics of that. So search engine optimization as an example. You'll see new entrants such as, like print companies, for example, offering SEO, and they might do a degree of that. That's okay, and they may do blog optimization or writing some blogs. But the kind of the more in-depth technical, especially in competitive work, that's when you need to sort of know your eggs, so to speak, and have made wins in the past that you can then apply in the future for competitive businesses. And
the strongest social media platforms for 2024. Let's jump into 2024. It's a minefield out there. Just when I get comfy with one. In fact, I stick to one and try and do that really well, and then embrace these other ones that come along. But what do you think is the strongest in your opinion at the moment from a marketing point of view?
Okay, I think if you identify who your audience are and what your goals are. So, if you're looking to get mass traction fast, then the sort of new kid on the block for a little while has been TikTok, for example, which needs a lot of content going out quite regularly. And then if you're more perhaps B2B, then LinkedIn is certainly a core foundation, as sort of we all know, to get regular content out there. So 2024, yeah, I mean, you'd have to look at for bigger growth and wider reach. I'd go with TikTok at the moment.
And I have dipped my toe into that water, and quickly moved it from 0 followers to 12,000, which I didn't think was too bad.
Yeah,
but it is very content hungry.
That's the challenge,
and that is the challenge. So there comes the next question. AI. It's certainly present in my industry. It's probably present in a lot of industries at the moment, and possibly yours. Do you see AI as a threat to marketeers, web developers, and advertising in general?
Well, it's growing, isn't it? Growing exponentially, and I think it's going to be a blessing and a curse. So it is a threat to some roles, but others, I think it's if you use it as assistance or to complement what you're doing, it can actually speed up what you're doing and sort of help quite a bit. I mean, I think there's a stat out there that AI was growing threefold every 3 years, and now it's going threefold every 3 months, sort of along those lines. That's how fast it's getting better all the time. Content writing you could take that as an example, where it can write a piece of content quite quickly, very quickly, and you've got content writers out there worried about their jobs. And we were talking earlier on just about how it might not sound that natural, but as time progresses, it does learn and will likely become more and more natural as time goes on. Video is another one. I was just thinking about that just then. Quite recently, there's a new video AI where you can ask it for any video content you can think of, and it would produce that quite quickly. Whether it'll always, obviously won't have that human touch.
Sure.
So, hopefully we'll all have jobs, because we'll still need to input the human element. But I think there will be disruption across a lot of industries, given how fast it's growing and when we've seen how impressive it is.
I mean, we've seen it here in the studio where we work in video production, and we've used some of the AI tools, and you put into it and say, like, create me a scene where a horse is, galloping along some ice, in the Antarctic or something like that. And it does it. You look at it, you think, this is incredible, really. I mean, but then when you look at it from a producing point of view, you do see a few flaws in it and things like that, but then it's so new. But this is groundbreaking stuff. I mean, I remember seeing ChatGPT for the first time, and you saw how quickly it could write an article. And I asked a friend of mine to have a look at it. He said, this is incredible. He said, ask it to write a children's book based in Cornwall about a dragon and hamsters who like bananas. I was like, what? And anyway, we put that condition in, and then sure enough, it came back with this, story. Mm-hmm. And then he said, this is incredible. He said, ask it to write a song based on the story and give you the chords. But surely it's not going to do. And sure enough, it did. And you've got to be alert to these things, really.
It's a big disruptor. Absolutely.
Yeah, it does make you think. So where do you pull your inspirations from, Stewart?
So, what kind of inspires me sort of day-to-day working? Results, really. So what we do, everything is finitely trackable. So if a client comes to us and says, we need more sales or we need more inquiries, we get all the tracking in place. So we track how many people fill out their contact form, how many people phone the phone number on the website, what search terms they were typing in before they phoned, so we can then run optimization. So we know how many leads they've got, how many widgets they're selling, or how many inquiries they're getting. So if we make changes on a website, or we have a client meetup review and they say we need to sell more of this, or we want to be more visible here, even that day, we can make a change, maybe up the budget on some ads, or make a stronger message on the website, and we can then see the data coming in, hour by hour of the leads increasing or the sales increasing. So that's really rewarding. And then you build up data over the month and present that back to the client, and and if it's in line with their goals, you've succeeded. So, in that sense, day to day, that's what inspires us as a team to get results.
Now, I would have thought your kind of career really is based on a no-brainer, because if you have a client that comes to you and says, look, I want to increase sales, and you have a route to market to be able to do that. Now, I know you can't always probably guarantee the results, but nearest damn it, you can really be specific in the way that you create your SEO, the way you create the pay-per-clicks and the campaigns, and you're experts at this. So in theory, if a client came to you and said, I've got an X budget, hopefully they'll get that return on investment. And there's a good chance that they're going to see a return, right? Because it's very specific and targeted.
Exactly that. I mean, the way we normally work it is sort of work backwards from that end goal. So we try and do it on a consultative approach. So we would ask them, where do you want the business to be in 5 years or next year? How many inquiries do you need, or how many things do you need to sell? And they might tell us, and then we would then backtrack from that. Okay, so this is how many leads you need. It's going to take this amount of budget. So we can tailor it to what they're after, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Rather than a sort of, this is what we do and it costs this much. So we kind of work backwards so every client is different in terms of their goals and their budget. And we put a plan together from the outset to meet those goals. And yes, so you can tailor it.
So in your opinion, what would be your marketing predictions to improve sales right now for people?
How do you mean? Sorry.
So, kind of marketing predictions, what's happening in the market that could give people a competitive edge with their kind of campaigns online. So is there going to be another TikTok? Do we stick with TikTok? Is there someone else to be aware of? Or do you still stick with the traditional YouTube? YouTube's still there? Any kind of changes in technology that you might be aware of now that we don't, where you're thinking clients could be putting their attention?
Okay. So it's still important to have the core fundamentals in place, which are often overlooked. I think some of the social channels are getting a lot of noise, but search, for example, your Google rankings often are the highest converting element of a marketing campaign, because people are looking for that whatever you're offering. They're typing into Google and making sure you're high up. Can often be the most ROI positive out of the channel. So there's a lot of noise about new things, the shiny new platform, but I'd still have the core fundamentals in place. And then absolutely, if you're not on platforms like TikTok and you're able to generate the content, just do it. And the key there is if you get a piece of content that it all of a sudden gets a lot of likes or it's getting a lot of traction, then use that as a paid ad, because it works and already, and then it stands to reason if you can then promote it, get it to a wider audience, you'll get more traction from it. So that's the sort of tactic, I guess, with one of the new platforms.
That's a good tip, actually. My next question was going to be any tips or tricks for pay-per-click campaigns, but I guess that's one. Is there any others that you can think of?
Yeah, and one that's often overlooked is, so if you're a company that gets a lot of phone calls, then one that's often overlooked is telephone call tracking. And it's quite simple. It's a piece of code that goes on the website. And if somebody lands on your website from a paid ad, then the area code that they see in the header of your site or on the contact page, the area code of a phone number will be static. So it'll still be your local area code. But the last 6 digits would be dynamic. So every visitor would see a different phone number unique to them.
Okay.
But what that means is, from the marketing point of view, or us running the marketing, we can see then where that person came from before they phoned. So which channel they came in on. Was it from TikTok, LinkedIn, Google? And then if they typed in a search query, we'll know the actual search term they typed in. So then you can optimize the website to appear for more of those queries. So if it's a business that's reliant on phone calls, then telephone call tracking can be highly beneficial, because you're always building up data over time. So at the end of the year, you can sort of look at your data and say, well, this year, most of our calls were from this channel, but we hardly had any from maybe social. So we do need to put a bit more effort there. You can measure it.
Sure. That's so important. What about for you? What's been your kind of best lesson learned from being in business? What have you taken away from it so far?
There's been quite a few, I think, sort of starting out, especially with just, on your own or with two of you. So you're kind of doing a bit of everything. And I think just being proactive and getting out there and trying to drive the business forward is important. I guess what I mean by that is when we first started, we had to think about new business, and so I actually went out and sort of knocking on businesses' doors, and I've never been in a sales role, and so it wasn't the slickest of pitches and a lot of rejections. But the more you do it, so I think persistence is the biggest thing that we sort of learnt there, and eventually you'll get someone that you can demonstrate that you know what you're talking about and can win business, and you sort of grow from there. So I think persistence is one of the things that I've learned over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about next then for you to make sure you keep on trend with everything? What are you doing yourself within the business to make sure you're ready for anything that comes along?
So I think, fortunately, doing what we do, we're sort of at the sharp end often. If a client that we're working for is seeing a drop in sales, we see that instantly through the analytics, and certainly the client will tell us. So yeah, we're kind of on the forefront of new developments, and we'll be looking at the competitors and seeing what they're doing. So we're sort of aware of things that are coming out all the time. So I think just being that immersed, we do stay up to date on the latest tech. Apart from that, it's knowledge really. So we kind of try to stay updated on the market, whether that's industry trade shows and so on, and reading publications, following the right people. If it's a platform like Google, for example, then there'll be liaison team members that we make sure we're following, so we get the latest info as it comes out.
So on your journey, have you come across any good marketing books or any books in general, any personal development? Do you do much of that? Anything that stood out to you that would be a good read for our listeners to research?
Just trying to think on that one.
Yeah, not everyone's a reader. See, I'm not a reader,
Yeah.
but I listen to audiobooks or any kind of sources of inspiration that you've taken, to your kind of mindset that you'd like to share. I mean, if you haven't, that's fine as well. But
yeah, I've read a lot of books. I think I've read a lot of sort of biographies of individuals that have done really well, and taken bits from all of them. To be honest, I wouldn't say there's one sort of key marketing book that has really helped. To be honest, I think given what we do, it's changing all the time. So the minute we sort of read a book about our industry, it's almost changed. There are books out there, which is sort of a tip as well, I guess, is for anyone looking to get into digital marketing, for example. Then I think you need to be immersed in the role rather than perhaps read a book that's probably out of date.
Sure,
because it moves on so quick.
Yeah. What about a quote? Have you got a favourite quote that you live by? Anything you like the sound of? Or
I've heard, there's quite a few quotes out there that I guess a lot of us have heard. So there are some. I think one would be, if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're right.
Right. Yes.
I think that was Henry Ford.
That, yeah, and I think I have a variation of that on my Facebook bio. So
yeah, it's that whole thing of positive thinking, isn't it? If you think you can't do it, then you probably won't be able to do it. So you still need some competency. If you think you can fly, it's probably not going to fly. But
sure, yeah.
You got to have some confidence and sort of think that way. Another one I heard a while ago was, you can't change yesterday's newspaper, which I quite liked. Mm-hmm. So that was from the chap, I think he founded the Paul Smith hair range and Patron, the drink.
Okay, yeah.
And his sort of thoughts there were that, there are things that have happened to everyone, whether it's in business or in your personal life, that you wish hadn't happened or you would have done differently. But, you can't sort of live in the past, and you can't change the headlines on yesterday's newspaper. So, and if you are thinking about that a lot, you're taking away time from forward thinking, forward planning, where you're going next. So you can't change yesterday's newspaper. I quite liked.
Yeah, no, makes absolute sense. So, Stuart, I just want to say a massive thank you for coming into the studio today and giving me your time. And it's been great to find out about more in your business. I've watched it from afar for many years, so it's great to meet the man or one of the people that's put it together. So thank you very much indeed. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Fantastic. You really have. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, as always, I'd like to say a massive thank you to Megan and to Jay for producing the podcast today. I appreciate the team so much here. They do wonderful work. Couldn't do it without them. And don't forget, share it, like it, love it. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell. But I will see you in the next episode with the next guest. And from myself and Stuart, we'll see you next time, and have the most amazing remainder of your day. See you next time.